You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Hello and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host Nesbit, and it's 2022, and Night Demon are back on the road, playing festivals, the European Attack Tour. We'll get into all of it. This is Night Demon Return to the Road. So after the pandemic threw a wrench in everybody's plans, on Saturday, November 6th, 2021, Night Demon returned to the live stage. And for a while, the shows were kind of few and far between, like as everything started to come back online and get back to normal. And we covered a few of these one-off shows in the past months. We did the Steel and Stone Festival, the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest, the Night Demon Year of the Demon, Beer of the Demon release show. But now Night Demon is officially back to doing what they do best, and that is touring relentlessly on the road, night after night. So recently, the guys in Night Demon, they sat down together, and they kind of did a recap of the shows and the tour. So we've got lots of stories, lots of live audio. There's a lot to catch up on, so let's get into it. Here's Dusty, Jarvis, and Armand with a 2022 tour recap.
Are you ready to keep fucking going tonight? This is where empires fall!
Hello, we are Night Demon.
It's been a tour. We're going to recap the tour here. Try to remember everything that happened.
Yeah, it's been since late 2019 since the band's been on the road, and aside from the 4 one-offs we did, or 5 one-offs between now and then, we're back at it, or we were back at it. With this podcast running now over 100 episodes, our intention was to gather all of this stuff along the tour as we went along. We did the best we could. However, I think not only did we forget how difficult it was touring, but just, the routing of this touring and just so many sleepless nights and just so much to do and so much going on. It was near impossible to keep our sanity and do this. So we're here to recap it, and we're recapping it now while we still remember everything as much as we can, before time goes on. So where are we right now, guys?
We're in Schönenberg, Kubelsberg.
At Nicholas Brim's house.
Our great friend, I don't know, what else does he do? Helper, he's driven us around.
Photographer.
Merch
guy in Foma
Times.
Promoter of Iron Fest that we played on this tour in the same town that we're in right now.
Yeah, so it's late June right now. We just did 28 shows, and we're here to wrap things up. We're going to be doing a music video here and some photo shoots for the new record. So we thought this would be a perfect time while we're still technically on the tour to go through this stuff. So let's see, where do we start? May 22nd of 2022 is basically when we all left to start this tour. I myself was in Ireland. I flew to Amsterdam. Armand flew from LA to Amsterdam, and Dusty from Newark, New Jersey to Amsterdam. It started off pretty nice, We got to reconnect with everybody. We met up with the guys from Midnight at the hotel in Amsterdam by the airport. Everything went pretty smoothly, I think, right? There was a nice shuttle that took us directly from the airport to the hotel. That's pretty rare. Yeah. But we all met up there, and we met up with our crew, Joao from Portugal, and Brian, our sound man from Philadelphia. Nicholas had also showed up there too and had brought all of our gear, which we store at his house here in Germany. And it was great. We had a good night in the hotel lobby bar and just talked about all the things that we were going to do on this tour, and actually got a pretty decent night's sleep, I think.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to not be jet lagged because I had kind of already been over here for a few weeks prior to that, but I could tell these guys were adjusting and getting used to it. So that was the first night there, and all went good. Then the next day, May 24th, we played in Eindhoven, Netherlands. Really nice club. I think we had played there with Accept previously, right? Did we do that club?
Yeah, we did.
I think so, yeah.
With this club, we were originally supposed to play at the Dynamo Club, the legendary Dynamo Club, but the promoter had booked another show the same night with the bands Yob and Spirit Adrift. So what he wanted to do was combine the show because ticket sales were kind of split between the two, and generally pre-sales have been low for touring bands right now, just because everything has just been canceled so many times in the last 2 years and keep getting canceled. So I don't blame people for not, I probably wouldn't buy a ticket to something unless I thought it was going to totally sell out. You probably just want to show up to see if it's going to happen. But so the first show of the tour, for a co-headlining tour that was only supposed to be 2 bands, we already had to make some adjustments and, share gear with the other band and have stuff revolve in and out. And Night Demon ended up being the opening band on this show. So it's kind of nice for us because we got to ease in and just do a half-hour set and kind of like get warmed up again, I suppose. But it was really interesting, and the other bands were really cool, and so it was definitely cool to be able to combine forces there and do something there. Do you guys have any memories of that first gig?
Just it was a little hectic, because having the other bands and 2 full touring kind of entities joining together and figuring out the logistics of all that stuff. And it was the first time we were using our in-ear monitor rig on the tour. So it was like figuring all that out and, training the guys how to, plug it in and patch it right and all that. I don't know, did we have some issues that first time or was it pretty smooth? I think
it was
all right.
I think it was pretty all right.
Yeah, it worked out. We played pretty early. I remember that. Like it's 7 o'clock or something, or 7:30.
Yeah.
So we were done by 8, which is kind of nice, I guess, to just get off and go hang out and just watch the rest of the show.
Getting the gear out of Nicholas's van was what we started with, and then I couldn't find my drumsticks, which were in the front. So.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
I was like, where are my sticks? Where are my freaking sticks?
Heart attack there on Dusty's
side. So then, I was just getting reacquainted with all of our gear. I had the custom Night Demon drum heads on, so I had to swap those out with Midnight's drummer. He brought some drum heads over from the States, which was nice, so we were able to put plain black heads on the front of the drum kit because we shared it, obviously. Just like a couple little things and a lot of stairs at the club. I remember doing a lot of stairs.
A lot of stairs at this place. They had a huge elevator, though, which was kind of cool. It reminded me of the big elevator in Dawn of the Dead, where the guy kind of sacrifices himself, the suicidal guy, and has the zombies eat him, and then he clicks the elevator down this big, huge, flat lift and just lets all the zombies in the underground. Yeah.
Husky from Continental was at the show.
Yeah, our agent was there. Midnight's agent was there. It was. I remember it being a bit stressful for me, like so much to the fact that I did so much prep for this tour that I started overlooking some of the small things, almost like kind of like we said, Dusty almost having a heart attack, like not having his sticks there. It's things like that. Like you set up so many big things, and you sometimes have moments where you realize like holy shit, I don't have my goddamn drumsticks or something like that. But for me, it was the hotel. So I had advanced all the shows ahead of time, and for some reason, since this show got moved to a new venue and there was another co-promoter involved, the hotel information that we had was wrong. We were no longer at that hotel. So now the headlining band is over. The main promoter has gone home. Our agents have left, and I'm trying to figure out where the hell we're staying, and nobody seems to know. So it was one of those moments at midnight where you're just like, what the hell's going on? And it's funny because I remember, like I said, even though I was adjusted to the time zone pretty much, I felt so burnt out by the end of that day. I felt like I'd been on tour for like a year, and I was like, holy shit, this is day one.
And that was going to continue on throughout the rest of the tour.
Yeah, but we did end up figuring it out. This girl, Marike, who was like the promoter's rep, who, she didn't have any information, but we've dealt with her before, and she's super cool, and she ended up figuring it out, and we ended up going to the hotel that night, and it was a little bit difficult to find our rooms and to check in because it was at I think it was actually close to about 2 a.m. when we got there, and it was a casino. So we got in there, and there was people gambling and stuff, and we were trying to figure out how to park the van in the hotel parking lot. We have the largest van that is made, and it's just sticking out like a sore thumb, sticking out in the parking lot. In this parking lot designed for these small European cars, and really nobody to talk to there to figure that out. So we just had to kind of wing it and back up into a bush and have the front end just sticking out in the roadside and hope that nobody runs into it early in the day. But the fact that we have to leave early every morning probably helped a lot. So yeah. I remember we had an early one that next morning.
That was the first van.
We'll get to that. Where
do we go next after that?
So May 25th, we made the trek from Eindhoven, Netherlands to Hamburg, which I believe is a pretty healthy drive, right?
All the drives were healthy. The routing was really, really poor planned in the sense of we had shows every day, but you had to drive really far to get to these shows.
It's about a 500-kilometer drive.
5 hours, 6
but
hours.
Again, I'm not going to I think the agents did a pretty good job getting the shows that they did.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We had shows.
Yeah, yeah. This day and age, things are so clogged up. there could have been, there were some gnarly drives. I think there probably could have been, we've done crazier drives, but when we were less established. So I know what you mean, you know. Yeah. But it's about 500-kilometer drive, you know. So going from the Netherlands up to the north of Germany. But it was cool to go back to Hamburg because, as most people know, that's one of the many second homes for Night Demon, and you know, it was really cool. We got to play at a club called Logo, which we've actually never played. We've visited there and had some shows there, but it was great. It was a near sold out show, and interestingly enough, a fan had sent us when we showed up. The promoter handed us a box that was mailed to the club, and it was a fan that had a little drum head in there that he wanted us to sign, and he wanted some pics too. And then had the nerve to ask the club to pay the postage to mail it back to him. So he should have sent some money in for a T-shirt. That would have been cool.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they sent money in the thing.
Did he?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
I talked to the
right,
girl that was working there. I was like, "Did they make you pay it back?" She's like, "No. He sent an envelope with like 10 euros in it or something."
All right, I take it all back. Hamburg!
Are you out there?
lot of good energy at that show.
Yeah,
It
and
was.
that club's a like like a classic old school like punk club kind of,
Yeah.
you know, from I don't know the 80s, right? I mean, it's been
Yeah.
around for a long time, so it's cool to play that place and small, compact, hot, small backstage. So you know, both bands.
We got to know each other real quick.
Yeah, but it didn't take long
Close
for everything to
quarters.
just be cool because those guys are really rad and we get along really well with them. So it was really easy on that aspect, you know.
Yeah.
Hanging out, having those guys with us, I guess, made the harder parts like a little easier, just because we would just make light of everything and like. Imagine going through that shit if we hated the other guys or like didn't get along or like, oh man.
Yeah,
Can you
'cause
imagine?
and just to make things clear, because of the cost of fuel going up, you know, we had talked about the idea of getting a nightliner, which is the European phrase for a tour bus, and you know, that price had more than doubled since we planned that. Then we talked about getting 2 vans, but we would have had to rent another van, pay for fuel twice, and have another driver on hand. So we decided to go 9 guys in a 9-seater and share a crew. It was pretty rough, but in the end, financially, I don't know how we would have made it work otherwise. I really don't. So that's one thing to note here. When we did get to the club, you know, it's kind of funny. You go from like a backstage that we had in Eindhoven that was very nice. We had our own keys to our own dressing rooms and had really nice catering and all this stuff. And then we go to the Hamburg club and it's like, it's just a small, very small room, a large closet basically next to the stage. And I'm in there on the phone with the airline for about 3 hours trying to work out some flights because of the Manifest cancellation and trying not to lose that more and more money off this thing. And, you know, the band's trying to sound check and like, of course we're on a time schedule, so I can't blame anybody for that. But it was just, again, like adding to the stress and just more things happening. And I realize now that sometimes it's like when the band's on tour, the band just needs to be on tour and needs to be able to focus on that and not everything else. But when you step away from it for a couple of years and you have all these other things in your life going on and you think you can continue that on while you're on tour, it's not a very realistic thing, you know? So it was definitely frustrating, and I was frustrated a little bit when we got on stage. Another thing too is like in Hamburg we have so many friends that, you know, we want to give them the time of day. They haven't seen us in so long, but it's like you're just stressed running around and you want to play and you want to do good, and there's just a lot going on, and this is a city that we're used to spending a lot of time in. We literally had like 9 hours in the city or something, you know, like, so we just didn't have, I feel bad because we didn't have enough time for everybody, and I'm sure everybody understands that, but it's just like, it's one of those things where tour is frustrating, you know, because if you take days off, it's extremely expensive, and you know, but if it's also good for your mental and physical health too, you know. So, but yeah, no, I remember it was a really good show. We played really well, and the crowd was extremely responsive. It was very cool to play for those people again.
All right. How the fuck we doing tonight, Hamburg? So yeah, it's been a while since you guys have been to some concerts, huh? Yeah? It's been a while since we played some too, all right? We didn't forget how to play them. Did you forget how to fucking rock out? No, you're supposed to say no. Sorry, okay. Anyway, let's rest the pipes here. This is one off the album Darkness Remains. Flight of the Manticore. 1, 2, 3, 4!
and we were starting to, we were playing songs that we weren't playing live before. Obviously, a lot of the singles. I think we started out the tour, like those shows, playing Wisteria for some of the first times, and Are You Out There? We were playing all 4 of the original singles, plus Sun Goes Down, which was a staple. I think we played that at every show on this tour. That and Empire's Fall for sure.
We started out playing Kill the Pain a lot, and then we cut that later on.
But yeah, this was one of those shows that we brought out the full set, and we were still kind of trying to figure out with the flow of the set. I don't think we had any sets that didn't flow, or I think all of the sets that we picked on the tour flowed pretty well actually. But we were still liking to change it up from night to night, and do stuff like that. But all in all, it was this was a pretty good night, and it's funny when we were loading out. This German guy, this friend of ours, Thilo, who he's in the record business. He's not really like a music guy per se, like a musician kind of guy, but he was helping us load out, and he actually came out and grabbed 2 of the stage monitors.
He did?
Like the huge, really nice stage monitors, and brought them outside and brought them all the way to the van, and nobody from the venue noticed. He was just trying to help out.
That's right.
But we were laughing so hard because it's like, oh man, like here we are about to steal this really nice equipment from the club unintentionally, So we had him bring him back in there. But that's how that stuff happens, I guess. If you work at a venue, that's how stuff disappears sometimes. If somebody's not. A band's not trying to steal something and it's accidentally taken or whatever. But that's what happens, You got 9 guys together and we're still trying to figure things out. And sometimes if you have too many people around, if you have too much help, stuff gets screwed up, So
yeah, that's why I always try to just kind of just step away, be like, I'm just getting in the way, guys. Like you got this covered,
He's really good at that.
But we ended up
other jobs. Man.
Yeah, we ended up going to a same situation that night. We ended up just driving to a hotel super late at night. It was raining a little bit, and it was a hotel that we didn't have time to go and check in before and scope out. And it said it was a hostel, which we are very adamant on the writer now, like no hostels, because most time you're at a hostel, it's like basically a place for young students that can't afford a real hotel, and you end up sleeping in a room with a bunch of people you don't know, or there's a shared bathroom per floor, weird stuff like that. Luckily, this one, we did have our own rooms, but it was just a little deceiving and deflating a little bit when we got there, but there was still a bunch of red tape to go through as far as checking in, and everybody having to hand in their passports, and we're all tired, and a bunch of stuff like that, but it ended up working out. And it was another...
we had stayed there before, too.
Well, how'd we see? Yeah. I'd forget this stuff, Yeah. But it was another successful night in Hamburg overall. And those are my recollections of that night.
Hey guys, Nesbitt here. If you'd like to support Night Demon and this podcast, the best way to do it is to become a Night Demon subscriber. Not only will you be doing your part to support a true heavy metal band out there really living it, you'll also gain access to a ton of extras. Bonus audio content, a subscriber-only merch store with rare items from the band's archives. You can stream never-before-heard demos and unearth live concerts from the live vaults. Communicate with the other Night Demon diehards on an exclusive subscriber forum, and gain early access to all press releases, album pre-orders, new merchandise, and a ton more. And another thing that I think is pretty cool is Night Demon will be donating 10% of every subscription fee to the Metal Cares Foundation, which is a charitable fund the band started in 2014 to aid those in our metal community. So head over to nightdemon.net/subscriber and join us as we make heavy metal history together as one. And on a side note, I'll personally think you're a grade A badass.
We didn't hit the Reeperbahn, but some of the guys hit the
no,
Reeperbahn.
yeah,
I'll check in on this one.
Okay.
So, yeah, getting back to where we were in Hamburg, a couple of the guys at Midnight had never really experienced the whole Reeperbahn thing down the party zone of Hamburg, which the three of us have spent many late night hours enjoying, as you've heard before on this podcast. It's the inspiration, or where we wrote Kill the Pain, where it was originally called Grim Reeperbahn, working title. So I brought it up to the guys because the next day was like a 9-hour drive or something gnarly like that. It was going to Metalheadz, wasn't it? Or what's next on the list here? Yeah, Metalheadz Open Air, which was in the south of Germany, Bavaria. So we went from the south all the way down, from the north all the way down to the south for a gig. The next day, no driving day, all the way straight. So that kind of, we were like, man, we really want to go out and see the thing. So I went online and I looked up some flights, and I found flights for $100 that were out of Hamburg to Munich, which is an hour outside of that festival. So I proposed it to the guys, Ryan and Sean Vanek, and they said, hell yeah, let's do it. We booked our flights that night, and then we hit the town. Plus we had, like Jarvis mentioned, friends that were like, you guys gotta hang out, like, why are you leaving, this and that. Our good buddy Sebastian and Thomas were hanging out, so we said, all right, fuck it, we're gonna do it. We booked the flights, and then we went and hit the town. Stayed out until about 5 or so in the morning. Took a train back.
That's an early night for Reeperbahn.
Yeah, well, our flight was at 9 or something, or 10, so, you got to be at the airport by 8 these days, a couple hours before, even though it's a domestic flight. All the airports are just crazy and backed up. So, yeah, we had a good time out there. And then we went back to the hotel, got on a train. It was about, 30, 40-minute train ride to the airport, and went on our merry way. Meanwhile, in the tour bus land, or tour van land,
well, yeah, so
these guys are on their way.
So, yeah, I'll say that the night before in the hotel room, I got a text saying, hey, from Armand, check out these flights, And I was like, man, that does look good, But for some reason, I don't know, I guess because I'm managed Midnight and Night Demon, I kind of felt a little bit of responsibility just to be in the van. The tour had just started, and I don't know, I just kind of felt like, that was the right thing for me to do at that point. And so, I decided to stay with the ship. But right when I saw that Vanek and Ryan were like, oh, we're going to take that flight, I knew, Reeperbahn party was on. And so I was a little jealous because I didn't want to do that. But at the same time, I've been staying pretty healthy with the voice stuff. And it's helped not overdoing it on tour at night, especially, and trying to get as much sleep as I can.
Plus, it freed up 3 seats in the van,
exactly.
So we didn't have anybody in the middle seats, which made it more comfortable for everybody in the van.
That's a very good point. It made it a lot more comfortable. So, yeah.
So we
landed in Munich.
This is the following day.
Morning.
So this is. We're talking. This is
going to Metalheadz.
Yeah, so
Open Air, right?
Yeah, so Night Demon, the famous jump picture of first time me and Armand ever jumped off the drum riser kind of together, and that Nicholas Brem took was at Metalheadz Open Air in 2017, and the promoter had basically said, "Look, man, you guys were so great. I promise you were going to headline this festival." And he tried to do it in 2020, and here it was in 2022. And it was kind of a big moment for those guys, and kind of meant a lot to us that it was such a big moment for the guys at this festival. It's a outdoor fest. They only sell 667 tickets to this, and they sell it out. It's a Neighbor of the Beast, but there's a lot of staff and a lot of volunteers, so there's definitely a lot more people than that there. So I just want to preface that. So this is the next day. We're driving to that festival. So this is from Hamburg to Bavaria, which is it. Now we're going. See, here's this routing again that Dusty was talking about. We're going to the south of Germany. So this is an 8-hour drive if you don't stop.
Yeah. So we land. Everything's cool. I turn my phone back on, and the first thing I see is, "Hey, we're broken down. The van broke down. We're about an hour away from the festival. Please send help." SOS kind of thing. And then at first, we weren't sure how we were going to get from the airport to the festival because it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. But turns out we contacted the guys at the fest, and they're like, yeah, no problem. We'll send out one of the drivers to pick you guys up. So actually, I think it was when we were already in the van with him that I got the text from you guys. So then we're like, okay, shit, what do we do? So quick thinking, all right, drop us off at the festival. Nicholas was there already, and he has sort of a smaller kind of minivan thing. And then obviously the guys from the fest had this passenger van. So all right, drop us off at the fest, and then send those 2 vans over to pick the guys up and rescue them. And actually it kind of worked out that the 3 of us flew, because if there was 9 of us in that van, we would have had to take another 2 trips to get everybody and the gear to the fest. And luckily also you guys were only an hour away breaking down.
Luckily also Nicholas was there with his van.
And Nicholas was there too. So I mean, it's crazy that you're going to hear the same kind of story about kind of things happening but not missing the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And from our point of view, we're broken down. It was a little over an hour away from the place, but we had broken down. Basically, the turbo went out in the van, so we had lost most of the power, and we were carrying a lot of gear with us. So we had stopped on the side of the freeway, and we were just like, what do we do? So we're like, okay, can we possibly make it to the next exit? So we did. We drove as fast as the van would go, which is probably 15 miles per hour, and we got off. There was a slight hill up the exit, and we barely made it off that. I barely made it to the top of the hill, and then we got off. We went to a gas station, and we're like, hey, we were in this large Volkswagen Crafter van. We're right next to a VW dealership that has a service center. However, it happened to be a bank holiday, so nobody was at this place, and they weren't going to be there till the next day. And on tour, every day you're moving from one place to the next, so it's not like we're going to go somehow get to this fest and then come an hour back and then be at our next gig. So we ended up just leaving this van in the parking lot. We waited for about 3 hours. We ended up going to Burger King across the street, using the Wi-Fi, having something to eat, talking to the guy at the gas station in the parking lot, and it brought back memories to the last time, or one of the times we broke down. It was a Shell gas station. We were traveling to Keep It True in 2017, and we hit a deer at night. Mm-hmm. We were going from Belgium to Germany, and the antlers of the deer ripped up the whole undercarriage, and some hoses broke and stuff. And we were stuck at an airport or at a Shell gas station all night trying to fix this thing with Gorilla Glue. And one of our roadies left a backpack in front of the gas station, and the guy called the police because he thought it was maybe a bomb or something. The police came, ran the plates on the rented van, and said that this van was involved in a burglary and that they had surveillance footage of it, so they thought we could possibly be the guys. It was a whole thing. That's another story. But anyway, we're just kind of bringing back memories of this. And, keep in mind, this is the 3rd show of the tour. We haven't even made it to the 3rd show yet, right? And we're already beat tired.
And one of the most important ones.
Exactly.
Headlining for us, at least.
Exactly. And so we find out that the guys are en route. Now, the driver who's driving the van from the festival decides to call us and say, hey, buy me some cigarettes. Because just to save time, because we're cutting it very close. By the time we load the van with all this gear, both vans, and pick you guys up and drive back, basically it's midnight stage time, and then it's you guys. We got to really hurry.
So on our side of the deal, we're at the festival already, the 3 of us, and we're like, all right, you guys, go now, go get the dudes. It was I don't know, what was it, maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. And then they keep going oh yeah, no, we have time, no problem. This festival is very relaxed. There's no problem, it's fine. Meanwhile, I'm watching the guy fucking eating a sausage in the corner, and we're just what are these fucking guys doing? Our boys are sitting on the side of the road. Regardless if we had extra time, just don't leave them hanging, Who knows what could have happened on the way there,
And
we're just like running, like we're just like losing our shit, like trying to yell at these guys, like, come on, go get our dudes, you know? And they just kept being like, oh, it's fine, it's relaxed, we'll be okay, there's plenty of time.
And yeah, I've cut it so close that when we got there, Ryan, the drummer in Midnight, was on stage sound checking the drums. That's how close it was.
Yeah, because he was with us already. So
yeah, and Vanek was there. So then Athanar had to come in and like just get on stage and go. And we had just enough time to kind of go into the dressing trailer and, you know, kind of get ourselves ready a little bit and, you know, figuring out our next step as far as how we're going to get to the next gig.
Yeah, that was another thing, you know. So, but what I'll say is the guy wanted a pack of cigarettes. So yeah, we facilitated that for him. And so what happened was when the guy showed up and Nicholas showed up in his van, they were right behind each other. He proceeded to just smoke cigarettes while he watched us unload our van and load the gear into these vans. He didn't lift one finger to help, you know. And he was a nice enough guy, but still, it was just funny. Like he wanted that to save time, and then like he wasn't really in there was no urgency on his part to get us going, you know. So we ended up crammed in another van. Everybody's got something on their lap. Nicholas's van is packed to the gills. And yeah, we end up at the fest, and just like Dusty just recounted, that's what happened. We ended up getting on stage, and we had, you know, it's one of those things, like, I thought that it was very hot when Midnight played. I felt pretty bad for them, you know, wearing the masks and all that, but they had a pretty energetic crowd. Then we got on the stage, and, you know, the sun was setting, and so we had some great lighting, and it was a really great show. I mean, the vibe was amazing. Yeah. I definitely made some mistakes on that show. I think it's just nervousness of playing a big stage and doing a big headlining thing, and also, it's one of those things that we have so much energy on these bigger stages. We're running around, we're out of breath, and like there's so much dust on this stage. I'm just sliding around and trying not to fall down. You know, so it was one of those things, but it had a really great vibe. And by then, see, when Armand said like this festival is very relaxed. You know, by then the organizers of the festival, they're just hammered. They're just totally drunk. But they're having a good time, and like that's what it's all about. But it's we're in a different mindset. You know, we're in a totally different mindset about what we're doing there and what our job is and what we're supposed to do. And so, but it was great. You know, it was good to look out in the audience and see girls sing the words. You know, like when you're in a metal band, that's a pretty cool thing. You know, but I thought it was a great show, and it's like we definitely let off some steam that night, and we were in this little, like a very little trailer, like on wheels that they kind of made into a makeshift dressing room, and we definitely had some shots of Jaeger and ate some food, and it just started to rain though, and at that point we were just trying to figure out, okay, what is happening? We need to figure out what we're gonna do. We have a broken van that's an hour away. We were playing Bavarian Metalheadz Open Air the following day, which I believe, it's still in Bavaria, but it wasn't a super close drive,
It's like 3 hours or something.
Yeah.
So that luckily.
So we were trying to figure that out, and the organizers, bless them, the organizers of Metalheadz Open Air, they're great people, but they were just in no shape to figure this out. And I kept asking the driver who had picked us up, hey, we're going to need a ride to these hotels. We've never been to this hotel. He decided he was going to go and try and get our keys, but it was too late for check-in, and he couldn't get the keys. They didn't leave any at the desk. So he came back, and I couldn't find him. Now, meanwhile, time is ticking away here, okay? We've got a ton of merchandise that we can't even carry because we had planned different drops on the tour. So we're putting merchandise in this backstage, which, by the way, the following day of the festival is going to be another band's backstage. And we're trying to figure out how we're going to get to the gig the next day, but also how we're going to get to the hotel that night. We did find the driver eventually, and at this point, he was drunk, or drinking at least, in the
party tent.
In the party tent. And so it's kind of like, okay, what is going on here? There was one sober organizer of the festival, a woman who I've never met, and she basically said, I hate to be rude, but it's your problem. It's exactly what she said. And I was like, well, I know you hate to be rude, but that was very rude.
So stranded with no van in Bavaria. You know, it's funny, I called Jarvis to ask him something about the podcast that week, and I called him exactly at the point when they were broken down in that van. So this is kind of the story behind it. Night Demon and vans have quite a history. Yeah, maybe we should do a full episode on Night Demon and vans someday. You know, it's cool doing these live tour episodes and the From the Road, like the recaps and the updates. When we originally planned on doing this Night Demon podcast, updates from the road were going to be a huge part of it. Kind of like a way for fans to keep up to date and hear the behind-the-scenes stories of the tour as it happens. With the pandemic, that part of it kind of got derailed, so it's cool to get these episodes happening finally. It's pretty awesome. We'll pick it up with more tour stories and a rundown of more shows next week. As always, check out the subscriber section. This week, we have full audio from the Hamburg show for streaming as an official live bootleg. Also, the Metalheadz Open Air Festival, so 2 full shows that you can stream in the subscriber section on nightdemon.net. There's more info about becoming a subscriber on nightdemon.net. Check it out. The amount of bonus content has grown so huge, you won't be sorry. Until next week, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Save me now, 'cause I'm losing all control. Save me now, death is knocking at my door. Save me now, Lucifer has got a hold. Save me now, 'cause I'm losing all control. Save me now, 'cause I'm losing all control. Save me now, death is knocking at my door. Save me now, Lucifer has got a hold. Save me now, 'cause I'm losing all control. Save me now, 'cause I'm losing all control.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you Metal Maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host the Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at metalforgeradio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, Metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time, all the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.